Rain tapped softly against the window. But inside the penthouse, silence screamed louder than any thunder. "You disgust me," Ethan Blake said coldly, his voice slicing through the air like a blade. The woman standing before him, Isabella, froze. Her eyes shimmered with disbelief, her hand trembling over her heart. A moment ago, she had imagined this night ending differently. She thought she would share her secret, the one that could have changed both their lives. Instead, he had turned her confession into ashes. The diamond lights of the city reflected in her tears, and the man who once promised forever looked at her as if she was a stranger. He turned away, the sound of the door slamming echoing through her bones. She stood still, unable to breathe, as the word replayed in her mind until it lost all meaning. Disgust. How could love decay into something so cruel? Ethan, the millionaire CEO who built empires with his ambition, had just shattered her with one sentence. She whispered softly, "You will remember this day." But her voice vanished into the hum of the storm. She left that night with a hand on her stomach, carrying a secret he never gave her the chance to explain. 4 years later, when fate brought them face to face again, he would fall to his knees, because the 2 children standing beside her looked exactly like him. 4 years changed everything about Isabella, except the way she looked at the world with quiet strength. She had built a small life in a coastal town far from the chaos of Ethan Blake's empire. Each morning began with laughter, not boardroom calls. Her twins, Noah and Elise, had her smile, but Ethan's eyes, blue like the sea after rain. They were her reason to wake, her proof that love could survive even after being broken. Yet sometimes, late at night, she still saw his face in her dreams. The moment he turned away, the door closing, her world collapsing behind it. She told herself she was done remembering him. But destiny had a cruel way of rewriting promises. Ethan had changed too. Success had multiplied, but peace never came. He drowned himself in work, closing deals worth millions, yet found no joy in the applause. His mansion was silent, and his reflection haunted him. Every award reminded him of what he had destroyed with his pride. No one knew why he often stood by his office window at midnight, staring at nothing. Until one morning, a familiar name appeared on a charity sponsorship list. A small clinic in the same coastal town where Isabella lived. His heart stopped. It could not be her, but something inside him whispered it was. He had to go, even if it meant facing the truth he once ran from. The moment Ethan stepped into that coastal town, something inside him felt strangely alive and heavy all at once. The salty wind carried the smell of fresh bread and ocean air, so different from the glass and steel world he ruled. He walked along the narrow streets, unsure of what he was looking for until he saw her. Isabella, standing outside a small bookstore, arranging flowers in a vase by the window. Time froze. Her hair, once styled for city galas, now blew freely in the breeze, sunlight catching the gold strands. She looked peaceful, stronger and more radiant than he remembered. For a heartbeat, he wanted to believe she had forgiven him. But then she looked up. Their eyes met. Her hands trembled, the flowers fell, and every memory between them came rushing back. He wanted to speak, but words tangled in his throat. She turned away quickly, walking inside as if the glass door could protect her from the past. Ethan stood there, paralyzed, guilt burning through him. He could leave, pretend he never came, but his feet refused to move. Inside, two children ran up to Isabella. Their laughter filled the air. And when one of them turned toward him, Ethan's chest tightened. Those blue eyes, his eyes, stared right back at him. The truth hit like lightning. He whispered under his breath, "My God, they're mine." Ethan stood outside the glass door, unable to breathe as the weight of realization crushed him. The twins were his. Every feature screamed the truth he had refused to face. The way the boy's brows furrowed when he laughed, the girl's small dimple when she smiled. It was like watching echoes of himself in miniature form. For the first time in years, the man who commanded boardrooms felt powerless. He wanted to rush inside, to fall to his knees and tell Isabella he was sorry for every cruel word, but fear held him hostage. What if she hated him? What if he had already lost the right to say anything at all? He turned away before anyone noticed him, walking aimlessly toward the beach, his heart pounding with regret. That night, he couldn't sleep. He sat in his hotel room, staring at the ceiling, haunted by those tiny faces. The man who once measured success in profits now realized how empty victory felt without love. The memory of that night 4 years ago replayed in his mind. The shock on Isabella's face, her tears, and his voice, cold and heartless. He whispered to the empty room, "What have I done?" The next morning, with trembling hands, he wrote a letter, words he should have spoken years ago. He didn't know if she would read it, but he had to try. As he walked back to the bookstore, hope and fear battled in his chest. He had no idea that his moment of redemption was about to begin. When Isabella opened the bookstore that morning, a folded letter lay on the counter beneath a single white rose. Her heart skipped a beat as she saw the familiar handwriting. For a moment she wanted to throw it away, but something inside whispered that she should read it. Her hands shook as she unfolded the paper. The words were raw, nothing like the man who once spoke with ice in his voice. Ethan wrote about sleepless nights, empty rooms, and the pain of realizing too late what love truly meant. He wrote that he saw her, that he saw the children, and that he finally understood what he had destroyed. By the time she finished reading, her tears had blurred the ink. She pressed the letter to her chest, caught between anger and aching sorrow. Outside, Ethan stood across the street, watching from his car, afraid to approach. He saw her cry and felt every tear like a knife. He had faced ruthless investors, endless deadlines, and hostile takeovers, but this was the first time he felt true fear, fear of being unforgiven. Isabella stepped outside then, holding the letter. Their eyes met again, and for the first time, she didn't look away. She walked toward him slowly, the twins standing in the doorway behind her. Her voice was steady when she said, "You cannot undo the past, Ethan, but you can choose what you do with this moment." He wanted to speak, to beg for a chance, but before he could, Noah called out softly, "Mom, who is that man?" The question hung in the air like a fragile truth waiting to be spoken. The world seemed to stop when Noah's innocent question broke the silence. Ethan felt his heart twist as both children looked at him curiously, unaware of the history that tied them together. Isabella's eyes glistened, and for a moment, Ethan saw the same woman he had fallen in love with, the woman who had once believed he was capable of kindness. She took a deep breath, her voice soft but steady. "He is someone I used to know," she said quietly, but her gaze never left Ethan's. The words stung, yet there was no hatred in them, only exhaustion and strength. Ethan stepped forward slowly, unable to hold back any longer. "Isabella," he whispered, "please let me explain." She hesitated, torn between protecting her heart and the truth her children deserved. They walked together to the nearby park, the twins running ahead, laughing under the autumn sun. Ethan finally spoke, about his pride, his mistakes, his fear of not being enough. Each word stripped away the armor he had worn for years. Isabella listened in silence, tears slipping down her face, not out of anger, but release. When he finally said, "I never stopped thinking about you," she closed her eyes, letting the wind carry away the weight of old pain. Noah ran up to him then, tripping slightly, and Ethan instinctively caught him. The small boy smiled up at him, and that smile broke every wall left standing. Isabella watched the moment, her heart shifting between past wounds and present forgiveness. She didn't answer right away, but when she whispered, "If you truly want to make things right, prove it," Ethan nodded. He knew redemption wouldn't come in words. It would come in time, in presence, in love. And as the sun dipped behind the ocean, he silently promised that he would never walk away again.